The international release of Tekken 6 was seen as a success in the eyes of Bandai Namco. It reviewed well and sold well compared to its contemporaries. But in the beginning of the 2010s, a new direction was taken. Street Fighter Cross Tekken was announced before EVO 2010, a crossover with Capcom's legendary franchise after their newfound success with Street Fighter 4. They also announced Tekken Cross Street Fighter, which would be Bandai Namco's take on the crossover deal. Cut to a few months later when Katsuhiro Harada announces a new game in the series, Tekken Tag Tournament 2, a sequel to one of the best spin-off fighting games ever made? That sounds awesome! It was a triple punch of fighting game announcements and I was excited for it all. I recall the build-up of Tag 2's release fairly well. The movie Blood Vengeance came out in 2010. It was bundled with the HD version of Tekken Tag, as well as a small demo of the sequel in Tekken Hybrid in 2011. There were only 4 playable characters, all from the movie, but it was a good way to hold us over until the real thing was ready. 2012 was the year Cross Tekken and Tag Tournament 2 were released on consoles, with the former not living up to the hype, and the latter finding a home in my mind palace for the next 5 years. As for Tekken Cross Street Fighter, well, it was pretty much in development hell for years, until it was put in an indefinite hold in 2016. Tekken Tag Tournament 2 is the first game in the series I put on pre-order and got day 1, and until Tekken 7 in 2017, this is my go-to fighting game for the 7th generation. But is it still worth picking up 11 years later? Let's tag in. Much like the original PS2 game, Tekken Tag Tournament 2 is a non-canon dream match where most everyone from the series, dead or alive, battles in 2v2 tag matches. But unlike the first game, there's sort of a setup here. After ingesting a serum whipped up by the Mishima Zaibatsu scientists, Heihachi Mishima returns to the prime of his youth. Ecstatic to test out his newfound power, he announces the King of Iron Fist tournament that attracts practically everyone. The entire cast of Tekken 6 joins, along with a bunch of returning characters absent since Tekken 5. Ogre, Angel, Kunimitsu, Tiger Jackson, Forest Law, Jinpachi Mishima. It's the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate of fighting games. They also introduced a few new characters here as well, such as Lily's butler Sebastian, who fights exactly like his heiress, funny enough, and Slim Bob, the skinny version of Bob from his Tekken 6 ending. The most interesting newbie is a wrestler named JC, who is Julia Chang in disguise. Ah, I see what you did there. After a luchador was injured in a car crash, Julia is reluctantly pulled into a wrestling persona in her place. She retains some of her usual moves, but some of the new wrestling techniques are pretty sick. The arcade mode is pretty standard. Stage 7 pits you against Heihachi and his father Jinpachi. They throw you into Ogre's Den in the penultimate stage, and the final boss is against someone we haven't seen in a while. I know this isn't a canonical entry, but June as the last boss is pretty rad. Maybe this is some type of foreshadowing. She is a little tough, but getting around on her makes her and the stage change. Now she becomes Unknown, who trades her Wolf Spear for Goop Spikes. And upon her defeat, you unlock one of your character's endings, which are on par with the ones from the last 3 games thankfully, but are all random what-if scenarios. I can only think of 2 endings that actively expand the lore in a meaningful way, and it's for Steve Fox and Leo Kleason. It shows the horrifying repressed memory of Steve being experimented on as a test subject for the Zaibatsu Super Soldier experiment. Go see the Tekken 4 video on that madness. And only through the kindness of Emma Kleason, Leo's mother, that he's able to escape with his humanity intact. Since she worked for the Zaibatsu, maybe Kazuya pulled some strings during the war. You know what, I'm thinking too deep about this game. Engage the goofiest ending that I could find. But the story isn't what you're here for, it's the gameplay, which is far improved. Much like before, you can select a 2-person team from among the 61 characters in the roster to do battle. You can also fight with just one if you want, and I'll go over the advantages of that later. The rules are the same: punch, kick, throw, sidestep, and all that good stuff. The bounce system from Tekken 6 returns, along with floor breaks and wall juggles. Some stages also have walls to break through and ledges to knock the opponent off of as ways to extend your combos even further. You can tag into your partner in waiting and heal any damage they may have taken, and getting below 50% of one of your health bars automatically triggers Rage for the other character. Rage works exactly like it did in Tekken 6, and triggers for that and health games are dependent on character alignments just like before. It's something you probably won't notice without experimentation or an online guide on hand, but it is a nice attention to detail nonetheless. You can perform a tag combo by pressing the tag button after launching the opponent, and any additional hits during the launch reduces replenishable health on your opponent's life gauge. Tag combos are as devastating as ever, but the new tag Assault is another way to put the pins in your opponent. Pressing the tag button after putting your opponent in bound makes them attack along with you for a brutal combo that automatically puts the opponent's waiting character in rage on the first hit. It's another way to delete the opponent's replenishable health, but it eliminates any your second guy has, so it's a risky maneuver that may be worth the extra damage. You don't have to play with two characters if you want. You can fight with just one and do just fine. You'd think a 1v2 match would be one-sided, but they made these matchups evenly matched. The solo player fighting against a tag team does a bit more damage naturally. It replenishes health without having to rust off screen, and they have access to rage when they're at 50% health. They can't use any of the tag skills obviously, but solo warriors are well equipped for these matches. When it's 1v1, it's just good old Tekken without the extra layers of strategy having a partner grants. It's almost like playing 3 different games in one fighting system, and it's incredibly fun no matter how you tackle it. All the characters are mostly unique and viable options to do battle with. Even the supposed joke characters like Dr. Boskanovich can dish out the pain like anyone else. It's an incredibly fun and addicting battle system, and possibly the best so far in the series. I could play this for hours, and I had a hard time putting it down during the recording sessions. It's been over half a decade since I played this, and I recalled why Tekken Tag Tournament 2 was one of my most played fighting games for a good while. Tag 2 has a bunch of modes to hold you over. Ghost Battle returns to pit you against as many computer-controlled opponents as you'd like to earn fight money and rank up your characters. Sometimes you'll get the option to battle special opponents highlighted in gold, and beating them unlocks character-specific customization equipment and their ending if it wasn't unlocked already. There are also random chances to obtain a lucky box after winning matches, and these contain a crap ton of fight money and possibly custom items. Speaking of which, customization is back, working just like it did before. You can purchase new clothing and other items to equip your character to wear to battle. Unlike Tekken 6 where different colors of a clothing article had to be bought one at a time, here you can buy one and pick whatever colors you want it to be, which is refreshing. Sure, the individual items aren't as expansive as before, but the option to edit what you get however you like is something I appreciate. Online modes return as the forefront mode of the game, but unfortunately nobody is playing this game online anymore. When it was populated, you had to buy an online pass to even go into this mode, a practice I'm glad game design has stepped away from. You could compete in ranked matches to climb to the top of the leaderboards, or unranked against strangers and friends alike. I remember the online being fairly decent compared to the last 2 games. Sure, there were some laggy matches and connection issues, but there was a positive online experience I had with this game. It's a damn shame no one can experience it anymore, and if you get Tekken Tag Tournament 2 today, there's a dead mode staring you in the face. Aside from that, there's Versus, Team Attack, Time Attack, Survival, and Practice all working like before, as well as a new mode called Fight Lab. This is basically a tutorial mode with its own self-contained story. Violet is working on a prototype for Combat DX, and accidentally hits delete instead of save. Don't you hate it when that happens? With his hard work and smoke, he starts from scratch with a blank Combat that happens to be sitting in the corner. In Fight Lab, you play as Combat through 5 chapters filled with trials, teaching you the mechanics of the game. Basic movement, attack properties, bound combos, the tag commands, everything I summed up before is all featured in this mode. When you beat enemies in complete chapters, you earn Violet Points, a currency only redeemable within the Combat Tuning Shop. Here you use points to purchase moves for Combat to learn, for every conceivable button combination. In the beginning of the game, Combat's moveset is pitifully minimalist, but clearing Fight Lab will earn you special moves to help you clear it. Buying a bunch of moves for Combat really makes it feel more like a complete character, and you can make your own Frankenstein experiment out of this. The only problem is a lot of these moves are pretty pricey, and you likely won't be able to fill every slot in a single playthrough. If you want to make Combat as good as you want, or gosh forbid, get every move available, you have to play through Fight Lab multiple times and grind out points. The idea is cool, and this is the only time we get an actual custom fighter in Tekken, but I'm not spending my time in tutorial mode just to deck out one character. I got shit to do. Tekken Tag Tournament 2 is the prettiest looking game in the series so far. The character models are insanely detailed and lifelike, and the backgrounds are vibrant and colorful. When characters get knocked into the ground in certain stages, they get covered in dirt or whatever surface was on there. It's a cute little attention to detail. I'm a bit mixed on the music though. This is the first game to incorporate dubstep into its OST, which I don't mind every once in a while. The more traditional orchestral tracks are just fine, but when we get to the wub wub territory, it all sounds a bit samey and a bit ear-grating to me. In short, this is a great looking game, with a mid soundtrack, in my opinion. 2 months after the release of Tekken Tag Tournament 2 on PS3 and 360, we got a special edition of the game as a launch title for the Nintendo Wii U. It's the same game as before with everything I mentioned so far, but with a few new bells and whistles to make it a definitive version of the game. Every character in the cast has a special Nintendo-themed costume, and these are pretty hilarious on specific people in the roster. Why isn't Nina dressed as Samus Aran though? It makes way too much sense! There are also a couple of new modes exclusive to this version as well. First is Mushroom Battle, where Mega and Poison Mushrooms litter the battlefield, and your characters shrink and grow, increasing and decreasing their damage values. Sometimes a Starman spawns, making you invincible for a few seconds. This mode gets incredibly chaotic in a heartbeat, so it's great for parties. We also have the returning Tekken Ball mode after its long absence since Tekken 3. It works exactly like it did then. You deal damage by scoring normally or by dealing big hits on the ball. It also features the strangest vocal track that gives High School Musical a run for its money. There are also several uses for the Wii U's gamepad here, like mapping 4 specific moves for easy access on the touchscreen. I never use this. And in customization, you can draw on your characters and make them look even wackier than before. With all these additions in mind, I can safely say the Wii U edition is the best version of Tag 2 that you can get. The only problem? Nobody cares about this thing. With all the Wii U games that were ported to Switch over the years, I think this one deserves that treatment as well. Maybe that day will come. Maybe we'll get Switch ports in most of the older games too. Do it, Bandai Namco. I need Tekken on my Switch, dang it.
Give me it. Give me it. Come on, give me it.
But I digress. Tekken Tag Tournament 2 is an incredibly fun fighting game no matter which version you have. With the biggest roster yet, a fun battle system, great visuals, and a more beginner-friendly approach. But the main reason people play fighting games currently, the online mode, is unplayable in all 3 formats, which is unfortunate. If you want a great fighting game at a cheap price point, this is one I recommend highly. It's on Xbox Live Arcade for $20, but jump on that soon, as it's gonna go offline next year. Tune in next time as we finish off the Tekken retrospective with the last game before January of 2024. This is gonna be the biggest and most comprehensive dive so far, so it's gonna be a bit longer before that drops. So look forward to the end of the Mishima saga and the genesis of competitive viability in the series, Tekken 7. Until then, thank you all for watching, and have an awesome day.
You win!
Excellent.